believe in. Deep inside, you must feel that things are not right now and something is very wrong with what's happening around you. It seems you're currently tested, conditioned, and trained in absolute obedience and compliance on a scale we've never seen before. I'm here to explain to you what might have just happened. Whether you like it or not, your old life is gone. 2020 started a new reality that you will have to find your place in. It's possible that what we consider as temporary might be forced upon us as our new reality from now on. People like me have been warning everybody for decades, and we were laughed at and called conspiracy theorists. To those of you who haven't been paying attention, we might have just crossed the line between a conspiracy and the beginning of a global tyranny. I must admit that I'm surprised how accurate these predictions were and how quickly all of this developed. There is a possibility that the goal of all of this is for you to become an involuntary slave of the system in the name of a questionable event. Historically speaking, most major political, social, or economical events eventually turn out to be false flags or hoaxes. What would make you think it's different this time? There are no accidents in politics. Could it be that you are taking part in another staged event that could be a coordinated attempt to destroy our lives? I come from a country with centuries of history of oppression. Years of hardship and propaganda made us a nation of mistrustful skeptics, and I can tell you what red flags look like as things develop. They're always based on the same mechanisms. We're already hearing a lot about immunity certificates and passports, tracing applications, tattoos, bracelets, forced medication, chip implants, and so on. At what point will people decide that the line has been crossed? Private property seizures, internet shutdown, nationalized food production and ration distribution, unlimited environmental taxes, censorship and complete removal of freedom of speech, one world government and one global bank, or maybe the line will be opposition arrests, concentration camps, public executions and global depopulation. Where does it end? You think it's not possible? Forget 1984. Watch or read Hunger Games. It feels like it's slowly turning into a documentary. As we're moving our lives into the digital world, we're facing the same attempts to enslave us as our grandparents had to fight against in the physical world. Undoubtedly, we're heading towards totalitarian cyber regime, and what might follow is a real-life combination of fascism and socialism, enabling the implementation of environmental propaganda, financial system collapse, global wealth transfer, widespread poverty, and maybe even wars. We might be looking at the beginning of the collapse of our civilization. The one you, your parents, and grandparents built. Do you feel like your life belongs to you? Your freedom is a valuable asset for others, and you always have to defend it as those in power want complete control over you. They use simple tricks, and it's scary how massive the lie has become that everybody lives in now without ever questioning their reality. It feels as if truth no longer had any value. What they use is the boiling frog method. Instead of throwing people into boiling water, the water is instead brought to a boil, slowly, not letting you feel the looming danger until it's too late. You need to know that these who give up their liberty for security end up having neither. The path of least resistance is the road to complete enslavement, and once your freedom is taken away from you, you won't get it back. I'm here to tell you that things can't continue like this, and I want you to listen carefully to what I have to say before it's too late. I'm here to tell you how you can defend yourself against a potentially emerging psychopathic technocracy and the possible end of your liberties. I'm here to remind you that you're in this life for a reason, and it might be to defend yours and everyone else's freedom against the tyranny. But first, you need to understand who your enemy is. It has been long speculated who pulls the strings, and it seems in the recent years, because of the technology allowing us to exchange information, they are being exposed, and now we're starting to see them from behind their curtains. If you were to connect the dots, they might be the banker, corporate, and royal families with the biggest wealth concentration on Earth. They're the people controlling almost every government on Earth, and if you don't know about them and what they could be doing to us, it means you need to start paying much more attention to what is happening around you. If what is being uncovered now is true, they can only be described as global terrorist mafia. They are evil, ruthless group of people with endless thirst for power and control, resorting to intimidation and violence to achieve their insane goals. The government representatives you believe you elect are only their puppets who sold out or were bought long time ago. They don't represent your interests, they represent the interest of the shadow elite. It seems this elite has a long-term plan for the destruction of your world, and they've been doing it systematically through raising your culture, rewriting your history, introducing social unrest, and creating racial, gender, political, and ideological divisions. Nothing is off limits to them. They can destroy everything around you, and they can kill everyone. They might have been behind almost every false flag, armed conflict, and war in our recent history. 187 million people in the last century gave their lives not knowing the true cause of their suffering, while most of revolutions us humans are so proud of were staged or sponsored by the elite. Their puppet governments do not care about your health or your well-being. They're the right hand of the establishment, and they only care about profit, self-preservation, and not being exposed. You should think in these terms if you want to understand what is happening now. You need to remember that they're public officials appointed by us to help us make our lives better. They were not appointed to enslave us. The only purpose for the existence of the government is to identify and punish evil, not to represent evil. The power they have was given by us, and it can be taken back if this institution becomes a threat to us. While we were busy fighting with each other over nonsense, and while we were distracted by trivia, the elite has been studying and testing our nature. Now they know us better than we know ourselves, and they treat us as livestock. To them, we're a bunch of sheep or cattle they feel they can shepherd in any direction. Our precious lives are worthless to them. Luckily for us, the enemy is not smart. They're making a lot of mistakes, and they don't have many tools at their disposal left. Their moves come from an old, dusty book with only a few of tricks in it, and because we're starting to realize what manipulation looks like, they're getting more desperate and more reckless. The structure of evil is slowly becoming clearly visible to everybody. You will see it in the big difference between what regular good people behave like and the parasitic method they use to achieve their anti-human goals. As they further divide you by race, gender, political affiliation, religion, I want you to remember who the real enemy is. We're all victims because we let a tiny number of rich, unelected tyrants rule over billions of us, and a united minority is acting against unorganized and artificially divided majority. I do not know how serious the threat is we might be facing now, but one thing I know is that if we don't act, future generations will not forget it, and they won't forgive us. And you won't forgive yourself if all of this turns out to be true. You need to understand that shutting down our lives on a global scale is a giant alarm bell everybody should wake up to. Listen to this carefully. In order to avoid a potential catastrophic and difficult to win war in the future, you need to fight easy to win battles now. That's how it has always worked historically. Resistance would make sense now when there's still time. It will feel like there's very little need for this, but it is a preventative measure to avoid a disaster. Look at where we are now. This is a result of generations being asleep and not reacting. You might need to take decisive and immediate action. Don't wait for things to get worse. As soon as you see anyone trying to limit your freedoms for no reason, stand up to them. Remember that it's all an illusion of power. The system exists only because we allowed it to exist for too long. They do with you what they want because we let them. The government acting against the will of the people is not only undemocratic, but it renders itself illegitimate. Be careful. Your resistance might be calculated into their plan. Be smart about this. They expect you rebelling and protesting, and we need to be creative about the methods of defending our liberties. In fact, the whole purpose of this might be to create a system in which logically and critically thinking people will be identified, silenced, or even removed from society altogether. My country has been through this many times. That's how you destroy a nation. You take out those who can educate, wake up, and save the rest. They're scared of you realizing what's going on. They want you asleep and dreaming. They are building their house of cards on our backs as we're kneeling. All it takes to destroy it is for us to stand up. The structure they've been building is very fragile and vulnerable to simple collective resistance. Remember that the key to winning any potential battles is turning this structure upside down. It's uniting and acting collectively. They are the minority. We outnumber them by the whole world. We outsmart them by every single philosopher and scientist with a pure heart. All of us are good, God-loving people who will never stand for what these anti-human forces represent. They need to use violence and intimidation to achieve their goals, and this builds even bigger resistance, requiring more intimidation. It's a vicious circle of evil that historically has never lasted, as everything in nature strives for balance. Evil not only has to fight those who it oppresses, but it also has to struggle with its own nature and its incompatibility with the balanced world it tries to oppress. I appeal to all decent and good-hearted people who are scared to act. Look deep inside and look for the sleeping renegade. Find it. We all have it in us. Look into yourself and find out what you're made of. You might be a leader that has never had a chance to discover it. Most of you have never been through anything like this. If you have lived in a country like England with no recent history of social unrest, it will be understandable that you don't have a reason to distrust and disobey the government. But you need to understand that you will also be the first to be enslaved if what we're talking about here turns out to be true. In that case, this will not be about what you can do, but what you will have to do whether you think you can or not. If you never protested before and if you were never an activist, should you start seeing the first signs of what I'm describing here, it will be the time to learn how to do it. That's how leaders and heroes are born. You will be the solution. The most effective form of resistance is collective disobedience. You simply say no. It means not complying with that which is damaging to you and your family's well-being. The power lies in mass disobedience when the harmful laws cannot be enforced. The response of those in power will let you know if you're dealing with a genuine tyranny. They will try to see how much they can get away with. It's important that your actions are immediate and aimed at those who can harm you, not at your collective. Remember that your response will be justified if your liberties and your future well-being is threatened, and these who want to take away your freedoms must be made aware that they will have to deal with the consequences of their anti-human agenda. Warn them. Make them aware that you would need to be reckoned with in times of manufactured crisis. Educating others and spreading awareness is a very important first step, but if it comes to this, you will need to be ready to leave your comfort zone to defend what is forcefully being taken away from you. Find like-minded people in your community and join forces.